presentation will give you a different angle, because the smart in the city are the people. And their capacity to transform the environment, and first of all the city. And in this case I want to present the story of Portugal, a country which is not in a brilliant situation, and the creativity and the entrepreneurship of Portuguese people and their institutions in reacting to the crisis and making it an opportunity to transform the economy, society, and even their political culture. So this is a very quick picture. If you want to read the information and feel better, because probably if you look at Portugal, where it is, the country, you would use an expression that I can't mention now. But probably the worst data is the last point. 57% of young people want to lead the country. A country which doesn't offer opportunities to the new generations is a country without future. And this is where Portugal is today. Is it a new thing? Not really. In the last years, some global leaders, global thinkers have actually called for explorations of economic boundaries. I mean, pushing beyond the traditional economic thinking. And I just wanted to mention some. But to be honest, I mean, I'm Italian, I'm based in the UK, I've been in the UK for 10 years. I must acknowledge that the UK probably has been the government building consistently for over 10 years this new economy. For once, I'm happy to praise a politician, because the minister, Miguel Poyares Maduro, is doing what all the others are just talking about. He announced a social innovation fund, 150 million, capitalized with structural funds. What he's doing, it's very simple. It's saying, we have structural funds, we have money as a government, but we don't have the solutions. So for once, we want to invest in you as citizens, you are organization, enterprises, is neutral about it. Because you are close to the communities, you understand the problems, you are able to develop the solutions. We want to invest in your enterprises. So if someone mentioned before the lack of capital, funny enough, this guy thought, my job as a politician is to create the capital and the conditions for you to do your job, to lead. Let me tell you something about this fund, because any European country could replicate it. Every European country has structural funds. So 150 million capitalized with structural funds. It's a mix of investment and grants, and this is very important because, as we know, startups often need grants to start, but then they should not become dependent on grants. They are able, over the time, to receive investments. The fund is a wholesaler, because it's not the role of the government to mess up too much in the market. But we can discuss this. The role of government is to build the institutional infrastructure for the market. So it's a wholesaler, meaning that it will operate through other intermediaries. And this fund will have a logic of payment by results, and this is a bit of a revolution in European funding. It means that it's not about the actions, but it's about the results. For the first time, government wants to buy your success, not your time keeping yourself busy and not producing anything for the rest of the community. This is important to know because in whatever we do, we'll always have incumbents not being very happy to be ripped off of power and resources. And so if you want to succeed, you have to be ready to fight. But in any fight, there is always an unexpected ally. And that came from one of the, richest man in the country, who was very concerned about the social stability of Portugal. And so literally in less than a month, because Maria was fired a month ago, we put together an even largest coalition, and that is also important. Societal transformation requires a coalition with all the stakeholders. So we put together a bank, the second largest charity, the competitor of the first one, the university, the city, the municipalities, the Young Foundation, the international partner, a citizen movement, and a corporation. I mean, this is a 50 million operation. And I'm sorry, my presentation is still requires some work, but it's the first time I'm able to share it with you. Briefly, to come to the conclusion, what we are going to do essentially is we are developing a new investment line hosted by the bank partner, which will invest in the new ventures. But actually, we will divide this into two programs. One is capacity buildings for startups. The other one will be investment in existing businesses that are willing to transform into what we call social businesses. Clearly, capital is not enough. There is actually today too much emphasis on capital because the problem is the demand. Normally, we don't have investment opportunities. So we match this with a network of what we call the territorial platforms. Essentially, they are city-based platforms, a bit like the development agency, but they have to be local, not centralized, because every city, every territory, every community is different in terms of challenges, in terms of opportunities. So they all have to be local, all co-funded locally, but at the same time all connected, because at the same time people, enterprises need to move and share knowledge. We will also need citizen movement. The role of citizens in our society is vital, not because we want to pay lip services to democratic populism, but because the intelligence and the resources are over there. So mobilizing people, that's the basis of crowdsourcing, crowdfunding. Mobilizing people will be your main source of resources. And to do this, I mean, that is probably the most difficult part, because essentially you have to give them hope again. And giving hope to people today is quite a tough business. I finish briefly. This is also, as an emerging industry, it requires more knowledge, expertise, and how it was mentioned before, data. At the moment, how we operate is more like craft, case studies. What we don't have are big numbers. You know, data that can be managed by public administration, where we can make projections, where we can understand the transformation at the large scale and also mobilize support and resources. So the next step is also to work within university to set up institutions which are created to collect data, analyze data, measure social impact, and train the new generation of professionals. And again, those institutions need to be connected across Europe. Ultimately, that picture was important to explain that this is happening. It's not just in my imagination. You know, you will read it. There is a fundamental point here that those are the last, my conclusion. Here we are going to touch the social contract. We are going to redefine the relationship between state, market, and citizens. We are going to question what we call the state monopoly of public good provision, making every citizen, every economic agent part of this business. So we are going to somehow to question the core of our society. What might look a nice thing to have is fundamental for the kind of society that we want to build tomorrow, and we don't have all the answers. Let's be honest about it. But we should not be afraid of exploring the future.